Harvey Weinstein's sexual assault trial is underway in New York.
Local attorney Deanne joining us now to break down the case so far. Good morning, Deanne. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Okay, what did we learn, if anything, or anything new, in the opening statements yesterday?
The opening statements were interesting because usually it's a little bit of a preview of the case. They laid it all out, and they really described him not as a date rapist, not as he didn't understand consent, a full-blown violent rapist, forcing his way into homes and violently raping women.
Was that expected?
It wasn't expected in the sense of putting out every single detail essentially in that way, because sometimes you want to leave a little bit to curiosity and not give the defense everything.
What would be the strategy behind that then? What do you think the thought was to do it that way?
It was really just to inundate the jury early, get a real mindset of who he is early, so that everybody that testifies next, you were going to remember those prosecutors' words. You're going to remember her calling him a rapist and talking about using his influence to essentially destroy these women's lives forever.
I feel like, how do you defend this? A lot of people say, well, how do you defend somebody like this who is accused of such heinous crimes? And I was reading up a little bit. A lot of the defense argument here was they're showing some of the emails and phone calls from the accusers giving him almost loving statements after the fact, weeks after, months after. What does that mean in case of the defense to show those emails?
So all the defense can do in a he said, she said is really just attack their character and their actions after. Just as you said, they are going to bring in their behavior after to show the behavior after could not mean that he raped them prior to. Now, the prosecution is also going to bring in experts to be able to talk about rape trauma. I heard that one of the rape experts is going to be the same woman that testified in the Bill Cosby trial. Yeah, to talk about that these behavior afterwards doesn't necessarily mean that the rape or alleged rape didn't occur.
The Weinstein that we've seen and the video that we've seen of him going in the courtroom, he's now going in with a little bit of assistance. This is not what we're typically used to seeing him. We've known him as being famous, people knew who he was, and now you see that he's struggling to walk in. How much of all this is going to go into play in this trial?
Everything's a show. Trial is a show.
This is a show right now too, you think?
I mean, well, I don't want to go so far as to say it's a show, but they're depicting him as this big 300-pound man that's violently raping these women, and he's coming in with a walker, being fragile. Not to say it didn't happen, not to say that the car accident didn't happen, but every single thing that he does, the jury is looking at. He has 5 defense attorneys, and they have prepared him. They prepared him how to sit there quietly, how to look, how his facial expression should be, and how he should come in the courtroom.
Fame is playing a big role in this case, not just in the accusers, but in the defendant himself. How do both sides approach this?
I think the prosecution is going to use his fame as saying this is a guy who has had it all. He's just going to continue to take it all because he doesn't see any restrictions.
That's where his power came from.
Exactly. I think the defense is going to use it as that essentially these women were doing things, the prosecution uses these women were doing things also because of his fame, and because they didn't want to ruin their own careers. So they're going to use it both ways as a negative. I can't really see the positive how they were going to use it besides them saying that, well, of course these women are going to say and do whatever they needed to do to be able to get these roles, these parts, and they're still doing it now, still capitalizing on his fame now. There's up-and-coming actresses that are capitalizing on the fame is what they might argue. The older actresses might be trying to revive their careers is what they might say. On the other side of the token, it's going to be they had no choice because of his power in Hollywood.
Are we going to hear from him?
I would be surprised. I would be surprised if you hear from him, even though it's a he said, she said. He is subject to cross-examination about a multitude of victims, alleged victims, and I think there might be too many traps for him to fall into. You have victims that are testifying about their own incidents. He would have to be on the stand talking about all of these. If I was his attorney, I would advise against it. And he has 5 attorneys. You say, hey, I paid all this money to these attorneys. Let them do their job.
Sure. This is expected to last a few weeks. What's next in the next couple days?
I think next that they're probably going to put on their strongest witnesses. Prosecution's going, because they're going to stay in line with that theory of keeping that jury inundated with these terrible facts. So they're going to put on strong witnesses, corroborating witnesses to corroborate these witness statements, because there isn't a lot of physical evidence, so they need a lot of other corroborating witnesses saying, hey, she told me this happened at that time. I know it was 30 years ago, 15 years ago, wherever it goes, but they need something to prove that they made statements that corroborate the statements that they're saying in court.
It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks.
Yes, very interesting.
Deanne, thank you so much. I appreciate the insight.
Thank you.
Thank you.